Welcome back to Respoiled. Today, I have another captivating story to share with you. But before we dive in, if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications, so you'll never miss out on all of my latest uploads. Now let's get started. In 2003, Marcus waits for his execution in a Texas prison cell. Dr. Kogan visits him and offers to pay him with a kiss if he agrees to donate his body to science. He agrees and steals the kiss before signing the paperwork. He dies from a lethal injection while looking at Kogan. In the early 21st century, Skynet, a military defense program, becomes self-aware in Texas. It perceives society as a threat and initiates an attack on humanity, known as Judgment Day. Survivors unite to combat Skynet, prompting the creation of Terminators, robots programmed to hunt humans. In 2018, rebels believe salvation lies with John, a warrior leading a team toward a Skynet facility. They face immediate gunfire from the security system, forcing them to land the choppers and defend themselves. John shoots down a Terminator trapped by a helicopter. Then, he and a few rebels enter the facility through a hole, where they encounter a large security robot. By attacking together, they quickly defeat it and move on. Inside an old lab accessed by kicking down a door, they find human bodies used for experiments, including Marcus's. Some imprisoned bodies are still mobile but can only growl. They discover through the computer that this was a project to create a new Terminator model and relay the information to their leaders. Upon returning to the surface, John finds all the troops guarding their choppers have been killed. A large Skynet aircraft flies away, prompting him to quickly board a helicopter in pursuit. The facility explodes upon his takeoff, killing all other rebels, leaving John as the sole survivor. The shockwave causes his helicopter to crash, but John escapes unscathed. Attempting to grieve, he is attacked by the damaged Terminator. After a struggle, John regains control and destroys it. Rescued by another group of rebels, he departs just as Marcus, who survived the explosion, awakens. Unaware he's in the future, Marcus takes clothes from a dead rebel and sets off to find civilization. Meanwhile, John seeks refuge at Resistance headquarters but, denied entry, he leaps from a chopper and swims to sneak into a submarine. There, Resistance leaders, skeptical of John's prophesied role, reveal a hidden frequency to potentially disable Skynet. John volunteers to test it on advanced machines. The Resistance intercepts a Skynet transmission with a kill list, placing John second and Kyle, destined to be John's father in the past, first. Later, John returns to his home base and finds they've recovered a stubborn robot claw, resistant to control. Despite disabling its transmitter, it remains receptive to signals. Rebels activate software from the facility, eventually immobilizing the claw after a struggle. They secure it but realize it must receive a constant signal to remain subdued. John, facing the scanning claw, declares his intention to test the software on a larger target. Meanwhile, Marcus journeys through the desert to Los Angeles, discovering the city in ruins. Approaching a figure, he's met with gunfire from a robot instead. Suddenly, a mysterious guy shoves Marcus aside, letting the robot wreak havoc until he sets off his trap and escapes. This guy, revealed as Kyle, advises Marcus to follow him for survival. Evading the robot's gunfire, they seek refuge in an abandoned building with a girl named Star. When the robot breaks free and pursues them, Star sets another trap, crushing it. Kyle then confronts Marcus, accusing him of killing a rebel for his jacket. Marcus disarms Kyle to prove his innocence, prompting Kyle to explain Judgment Day. As a Skynet aircraft passes overhead and demolishes the building, the trio narrowly escapes to safety. Since traveling at night is risky, the group decides to rest, and Marcus teaches Kyle how to disarm enemies. Marcus fixes an old radio, picking up John's daily broadcasts aimed at informing survivors about the Resistance and tactics against Terminators. The next morning, Marcus repairs an old car for their journey. An argument arises. Kyle wants to head east to find John, while Marcus prefers heading north to investigate Skynet's whereabouts. Their debate is interrupted by a Skynet scout. They hastily drive away, but the scout only scans their faces as Kyle kicks it. Eventually, it flies off, prompting Marcus to throw a tool at it, causing it to crash. This unusual activity alerts the rebels, leading John to send a team to investigate. Later, Marcus's group stops at a ruined gas station in search of fuel, only to find themselves surrounded by wary survivors. Despite their reluctance to help, citing a need to avoid Skynet's attention, an elderly woman offers them food. While Kyle and Star eagerly eat, Marcus declines. Suddenly, the group is attacked by a harvester robot, which seizes the old woman before opening fire. Amid the chaos, some survivors flee and casualties occur. A few survivors escape on a truck, refusing to take Marcus's group. However, the Harvester targets and destroys their vehicle as well. Marcus hides and witnesses the Harvester loading the old woman onto a Skynet aircraft with other prisoners. The trio jumps onto a truck with its tank open, leaving a fuel trail as they crash through a fence and strike the Harvester's legs, causing it to fall. They abandon the tank with the robot and drive away. Kyle attempts to shoot the tank, but it has no effect. Fortunately, Star has a flare, which they throw at the fuel trail. The resulting explosion buys them time to flee. However, the Harvester emerges from the flames and releases two Moto Terminators, which give chase. With numerous abandoned cars on the road, Kyle maneuvers through them to avoid the enemy. As he speeds up, the Moto Terminators skillfully evade the flying debris while Kyle fires from the back of the truck. One of the Moto Terminators is hit and crashes into an old bus. Marcus then turns the truck around to escape in the opposite direction. The second Moto Terminator leaps over the truck, firing at them and nearly knocking Kyle off. Fortunately, the others grab him just in time, and Star hands him another gun to shoot down the second bike. Despite their efforts, the Moto Terminator starts a fire on the truck's rear with a precise shot. Marcus drives erratically to extinguish it while Kyle drops the cargo ball to trap the bike, causing chaos among the abandoned cars on the road. As they approach the bridge, a Skynet aircraft attacks, forcing a sudden stop that sends the bike crashing into it, dragging the truck along. Kyle and Star fall off and are captured by the Harvester, enraging Marcus, who leaps off the truck with an axe before it explodes. Marcus then uses the axe to heat the cell wall, but he is captured by the Harvester. At that moment, John's team's aircraft finally arrive and attack the Skynet robots. The Harvester takes damage and releases Marcus, who falls into the river. Skynet retaliates against the rebel planes, initiating a chase, but the enemy quickly downs the rebel aircraft. Pilot Blair ejects just in time, and the Skynet vehicles depart. Marcus emerges from the river and sees the pilot trapped on a tower. He climbs up, giving Blair a knife to free herself and catching her before she falls. They decide to head to the rebel base together, pausing only to rest at night. Soon, a group of survivors confronts them, seizing Blair's gun and preparing to attack. Blair reacts swiftly, knocking down two attackers, but they're overwhelmed by the others. At that moment, Marcus emerges and intervenes, breaking a piece of wood over a man to make him release Blair, then proceeds to subdue the others. After using one man as a shield from gunfire, he incapacitates the shooter. As he prepares to deal with the last assailant, Blair shoots his leg to halt him. Meanwhile, John and a companion decide to test the new signal on larger machines by creating an explosion to attract the enemy's attention. When a Skynet aircraft approaches, they activate the signal, causing the plane to falter and crash. John promptly destroys it with a missile, then informs resistance leaders of the success and proposes a plan. However, when John mentions the human prisoners, the leaders abruptly end the call. As for the prisoners, they're transported to a large Skynet facility and confined behind fences. When one attempts to escape by climbing, the robots shoot him down. During a relocation, Kyle steals a piece of metal but is caught by a robot guard and separated from Star. In the morning, Blair and Marcus reach the rebel base perimeter with magnetized mines designed for Terminators. Blair guides Marcus along a safe route, but suddenly a mine attaches to Marcus's leg and explodes. The rebels rush him to the base, where he continues to experience flashbacks of Kogan and his execution. Despite stabilization by a doctor, Marcus is later restrained by a rebel, causing concern among the others. They inform Marcus that his brain and heart are his only remaining organs and demand to know who created him, but he insists he's human. Suddenly, they force him to look down, revealing to Marcus that he's been turned into a cyborg Terminator through the use of his body donation. Despite Marcus's efforts to convince him, John remains distrustful, keeping him chained up. Blair defends Marcus, citing his earlier rescue of her, but others suspect it could be a ploy. Later, a rebel seeks revenge by shooting at Marcus for his brother's loss to the machines. Blair intervenes, shooting Marcus as a ruse to demonstrate her ability to oversee him. When the rebel leaves, Blair unlocks Marcus using a small torch. An alarm sounds, and guards pursue them, prompting Blair to open a vent and flee through a tunnel with Marcus just as the rebels open fire. Marcus shields Blair with his body, sustaining a melted shoulder, but they both survive and escape. Outside, Blair triggers several mines to create explosions for cover as they flee. Pursued by guards, they take refuge behind a damaged wall. Marcus distracts the guards while Blair disables their light. Attempting to escape, they face relentless gunfire from the rebels, resulting in Blair injuring her leg. Slowing down to assist Blair, Marcus is caught in an explosion. As the smoke clears, the rebels are surprised to find only Blair remaining, as Marcus has slipped away. Blair is captured while Marcus steals a bike and speeds off, leaping over a fence before crashing. Now on foot in the forest, Marcus becomes the target of the rebels in a chopper, enduring numerous shots before they bombard the area. Later, the helicopter searches the river for Marcus's body, but is suddenly attacked by long robot claws. A rebel is dragged underwater and killed, causing the helicopter to lose control. John and his co-pilot fight off the enemy, managing to repel it, but the chopper is damaged and crashes into the water. John attempts to save his partner, but the robot kills him first. Emerging from the helicopter, John shoots at incoming robots as he heads for the shore. Running low on bullets and overwhelmed by enemies, he's about to be attacked when Marcus emerges from the water and fights the robot, eventually defeating it with John's help. Despite John's uncertainty, Marcus proposes a deal. He'll grant John access to Skynet's facility to find Kyle in exchange for his freedom while he searches for his creator. John agrees and releases Marcus. Afterwards, he questions Blair, considering her opinion of Marcus before deciding to release her. The next morning, John contacts the leaders, requesting they postpone the attack so he can rescue Kyle. When they refuse and John defies their orders, they strip him of his duties. Despite this, other rebels continue to support John, so he delivers one final broadcast with a message of hope before departing the base. Later, on the road, John blasts music to lure a Moto Terminator and uses a rope trap to disable it. He then removes the AI chip and reprograms the bike for his own use. In the evening, Marcus arrives at the Skynet facility undetected by the cameras. He effortlessly infiltrates and accesses the computer, disabling security and locating Kyle's whereabouts, which he sends to John. Marcus then checks the database and discovers articles about his execution, learns of Kogan's death from cancer, and finds that Skynet acquired her lab and research. Suddenly overwhelmed with information, he suffers a headache and faints. Meanwhile, the rebel leaders attempt to launch their attack, but without John's support, none of the rebel subgroups back them. Their submarine is quickly located and destroyed by the enemy. Meanwhile, John stealthily navigates, evading guards and hacking locks. Once inside, he frees all the prisoners, then searches among the panicked crowd for Kyle, unaware that Kyle is held separately. Meanwhile, Marcus awakens to find himself fully repaired. Skynet communicates with him using Kogan's likeness, revealing that his true mission was to lure John and Kyle there, a mission now accomplished. Skynet attempts to recruit Marcus as a soldier for the machines, manipulating him with clips of John's mistrust. Angered, Marcus asserts his humanity, removes the chip from his head, and smashes the computer screen. At the same time, John continues his search for Kyle but encounters the formidable T-Rip robot, which withstands John's attacks and hurls him around the room. In the cell, a Terminator targets Kyle and John. Star arrives, distracting the Terminator. Kyle seizes the opportunity to insert a piece of metal into the Terminator's head, causing it to lose control and shoot randomly as they flee. Later in the lab, they encounter John and join forces. When T-Rip pursues them, it destroys the Terminator to clear its path. John's grenades only scorch T-Rip's skin, so he shoots at a wall, creating an escape route. They end up in the Terminator factory, where they find the nuclear fuel cells. Suddenly, T-Rip attacks from behind, knocking them down. Kyle retaliates quickly. The trio rushes to the elevator, but John decides to stay behind to destroy the factory, sending the others ahead. T-Rip engages John, overpowering him swiftly. As T-Rip prepares to deliver a fatal blow, Marcus intervenes, engaging T-Rip to buy John time to prepare the fuel cells. Initially, Marcus holds his own against T-Rip due to his cyborg enhancements, but T-Rip's superior strength begins to prevail. Despite Marcus's efforts, T-Rip burns his hand and relentlessly strikes him with force. Eventually, T-Rip targets Marcus's heart, delivering a decisive blow. Just as the rebels arrive in helicopters to rescue Kyle and the prisoners, John, inside, hears what he believes to be Kyle's voice pleading for help, only to realize it's a recording used by T-Rip. Attempting to flee, John falls, injuring his shoulder but retrieving his weapon, which he uses to shoot a tank, releasing molten metal onto his foe. Despite this, T-Rip remains undeterred. John then shoots a coolant line, causing the robot to freeze as it scratches John's face. Afterwards, John revives Marcus using electrical conduits. While distracted, T-Rip breaks free and impales John with a steel bar. Marcus intervenes, decapitating T-Rip with the same bar. Carrying John, Marcus joins the rebels, and as they escape, John detonates the explosives, destroying the facility. Back at the base, John's injuries prove fatal, prompting Marcus to donate his heart to save him. Blair bids Marcus farewell with a kiss, and he dies, vindicated. Don't forget to like, subscribe and enable notifications for more content like this. Thank you for watching.